Welcome to
Kassidys Nerd Box.
In this podcast, we delve into Kassidys Nerd Box and see what TV show, film, comic, game, or random thing from history is currently obsessing her. Kassidy is a 12-year-old geek with a passion for nerding out on all things. I am Andy, her dad, and this is our podcast. What's in your box today, Cass?
Coraline. Yeah. So today is a bit different because we have a special guest, my brother Dion. He is 8 years old and he is going to be helping us today.
Hello.
You're going to take on some of the fact-reading duties.
Yeah.
Alright, man. Okay.
Okay. The history of the stop-motion animated film Coraline started 20 years before the movie hit the cinemas. Way back in 1989 when Neil Gaiman was 29 and his first daughter was 4 years old. Her name was Holly. She would go off to kindergarten and come back to see her dad writing. Holly would climb up on her dad's lap and dictate stories to him that Neil Gaiman would type out for her. They were all about young girls like Holly who would normally have witches pretending to be their mothers and the kids would have to escape from them. Neil thought to himself, this is so cool. She loves stories like this. I know, I'll buy her some. So Neil went to the bookshop to find really good scary books for 4-year-olds. Alas, he failed. Such a book did not exist. So Neil Gaiman did what any good writer would do and wrote it himself. 10 years later, the book was finished. It was never meant to take 10 years. Life got in the way. The book got abandoned. Holly got older. By now, Holly was too old for the book, but Neil's second daughter, Maddie, was not. Neil decided he had to get the book done before she was too old. He finished it when Maddie was 6. After the first draft of the book was complete, Neil sent it to his film agent, John Levin, and said, John, there are only 2 people who I would ever want touching this. One would be Tim Burton, and the other would be Henry Selick. Henry Selick had already directed Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas. In fact, Tim Burton had little to do with the movie. And Roald Dahl's James and the Giant Peach. Neil never heard back from Tim Burton, but a week later, Henry Selick called up Neil and said, I've read Coraline, I want to make it a movie. That was in 2001. It took Selick 7 years to make his movie. The film was released on the 8th of May 2009. Dad, how many times have I made you watch this film?
Oh, once, twice. Alright, so I've tried to work this out. I'm going to stand up because I'm falling off the chair. Sorry, right. Let me look at this a second. Alright, so I've tried to work this out, and we've been through this cast, and you sort of agree, right? This makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, for the first couple of years, say from when you were 4 until you were about 6, you made me watch it at least 3 times a month. So in 2010 and 2011, we watched it 36 times a year.
Makes sense.
That sounds extreme, but it's true. People listening with young kids will have had to deal with watching their kids' favourite film sometimes 3 times a day, every day for
Frozen.
So you've been there, So first couple of years, we watched it a lot, probably more than 36 times in a year. The thing with you is that you never got bored of Coraline. I mean, I still think it's a great film, but I gave up watching the film with you every time about 3 years ago, but you've still managed to convince me to watch it at least once a year, normally at Halloween. So from 2011, I started saying no more often, and it went down to once a month. And then once every other month, so it's probably only 6 times a year from then. And now we're down to about twice a year for the last 2 years, would you say?
Yeah.
So we're slowly weaning you off the movie.
I still love it though, I still love it, it's the best.
So in total, and I've worked this out, I think it's a safe guess that you've watched it 106 times, and I've watched it about 87 times.
Wow. Okay, any interesting facts?
We've got a whole bunch of facts today.
Yeah.
And Dion, you're here, you're going to read some. So at the beginning of the film, 2 movers unloading the lorry with all their belongings, helping the Joneses move from their house to their new house, were caricatures of Jerome and Joe Ranft. Jerome was a sculptor for Pixar and Joe was a storyman. Joe sadly died at the age of 45 while directing Cars for Pixar. Ironically, he died in a car accident. As homage to Raft, who Henry Selick called a story giant of our generation, the removals van had a logo on the side which read Raft Moving Inc. Both caricatures of Joe and Jerome Raft were voiced by Jerome. A little add-on to this fact, the money used to pay the moving men had a picture of Henry Selick on it instead of an American president. Said it worked with Joe on The Nightmare Before Christmas, James and the Giant Peach, and Monkey Bone, which came after Coraline. Dion, do you have a slightly shorter fact?
Yes.
Go on.
The cherry blossom was made of popcorn. What's that?
So, there's a cherry blossom forest in Coraline outside, and all of the little pink flowers are actually tiny little popcorns that have been painted pink, stuck on the branches.
Yeah. Okay. The layout of the house was based on Neil Gaiman's actual home at the time of writing the novel.
The production made 500 dogs to populate the theatre in Spink and Forceball's other flat. Well, I think there was only actually 240 dogs in the scene. They must have made spare dogs.
It took 5 miles of gold thread for Miss Forcible's 5-inch wig when she was the mermaid.
Yeah. They used a record-breaking 130 sets across 52 stages to record different scenes at the same time. Over 183,000 square feet.
YB is not in the book. This means no Nan, which means no doll.
It was the first animated film to use stereoscopic 3D, which means that each frame of animation was photographed twice, once for the left eye and once for the right, to make it, 3D.
So give it depths.
Yeah.
Depth perspective. Okay.
Coraline is left-handed.
And finally, Coraline and Kassidy, you both have something in common, and that both of your names are spelt wrong.
Yeah.
Coraline, Neil Gaiman never intended to call her Coraline. It was a Coraline.
Coraline.
Neil Gaiman meant to call her Caroline, but he made an honest typo, but liked it and he kept it, and he found out later that Coraline is a real name. Likewise with you, your name is Kassidy, spelt incorrectly with a K, which is, I think, actually the Scottish spelling of it. So it turned out to be the correct spelling after all as well, just like Coraline. And also both your surnames are Jones.
Yeah.
And you sometimes go to another dimension where you have an other mother and other father. No.
And finally, that wasn't the final one, that you lied. And finally, in the scene where the other father sings a song on the piano, he is on the piano, he is wearing monkey bone slippers. Monkey Bone is the film Henry Selick made after Coraline.
And it was terrible, everybody.
Okay, I am bored of Coraline facts now. Do you have some random, interesting fact?
I don't have a random and interesting fact, but I did make a discovery about myself, which is slightly... It's like, I found I'm 33 years old and I just found out that I have a speech impediment. Yeah, I know. So, it turns out, so we're watching the new Marvel film, right, with the dude with the hammer. The film is called Ragnarok. That's right. Now, so, when I told my girlfriend that, we should watch that film, I said, let's watch Thor Ragnarok. And she said, so, basically, Kassidy, say the number 4.
4.
And now say the man with the hammer.
4.
Right, 2 different words,
yeah.
Right? I'm going to say the number 4. 4. Right? And that is the name of the man with the hammer. 4. Right? I had no idea this whole time that I couldn't say the TH sound. So, whether it's fort, the type that you fight in, or fort, when you're thinking about things, it sounds the same. I've tried. I'm going to try it now. Ready? 4. I can't do it. So, yeah. 4. 4. 4. I can't. So yeah.
No, Andy, because you're doing this. 4.
It's because I only just learned how to do it 2 days ago.
4.
I do this. 4.
I do this. 4.
Really? I got this 4. 4.
Oh wait.
4.
4.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
Wait.
Pretty much.
4 Ragnarok.
Yeah.
4 Ragnarok.
Oh, I kind of just.
That wasn't a great fact, was it? But that was a self-discovery. I wonder if I can think of an interesting fact that I can actually share with you guys. What did you just say?
Sway.
I can't say either, apparently.
What did you just say? And finally, a Shakespearean insult. It's Dad. It's your turn to insult me.
I'll beat thee, but I would infect my hands.
Wow.
That's the end of our podcast.
You can follow us on Twitter at Kassidys Nerdbox. We also have a website, www.kassidysnerdbox.com.
Yep, and you can email us at kassidysnerdbox@gmail.com.
Until next time,
bye!
Kassidy's Nerd Box.
Actually, before we go, if you go to iTunes and you like the podcast, do leave a 5-star review because it just helps, right? Right, Kassidy? Agreed?
Sure.
And subscribe. If you subscribe to the iTunes podcast, it will be automatically downloaded to your phone or your iTunes player every time we put a new episode up. We're hopefully going to do them weekly, but they take a lot of time to research and write, and we are busy people, but we're going to do our best. So, subscribe, write a review. You can find us probably everywhere you get podcasts. We're on SoundCloud. Just Google... Or, you'll find us. Yeah, you're smart people. All right, bye.
Bye.